blesseth himself in the earth shall bless himself, God of truth. And he that sweareth in the earth shall swear by the God of truth, because the former troubles are forgotten, and because they are hid from thine eyes. For behold, I create new heavens and a new earth, and the former shall not be remembered, nor come into mind. But be ye glad and rejoice forever in that which I create. For behold, I create Jerusalem a rejoicing, and her people a joy. And I will rejoice in Jerusalem, and joy in my people. And the voice of weeping shall be no more heard in her, nor the voice of crying. There shall be no more thence an infant of days, nor an old man that hath not filled his days. For the child shall die 100 years old. But the sinner, being 100 years old, shall be accursed. They shall build houses and inhabit them, and they shall plant vineyards and eat the fruit of them. They shall not build, and another inhabit. They shall not plant, and another eat. Whereas the days of a tree are the days of my people, and mine elect shall long enjoy the work of their hands. They shall not labor in vain, nor bring forth for trouble, for they are the seed of the blessed of the Lord, and their offspring with them. And it shall come to pass that before they call, I will answer, and while they are yet speaking, I will hear. The wolf and the lamb shall feed together, and the lion shall eat straw like the bullock, and dust shall be the serpent's meat. They shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain, saith the Lord.
This is exactly what the Most High is going to do with his elect, with the nation of Israel in general. Because the nation of Israel will be a nation of superhumans on the planet Earth. And this is what's coming.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Kakwadash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to his younger brothers. And peace and blessing, salutations to the whole flock out there pushing the word and truth and sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. Pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the whole flag, the believers, the listeners who have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashim Al Shai. All right. What I want to get into today, okay, is dealing with wickedness in the shadows. All right. And this lesson was inspired by the beloved elder brother Shaquat out of Mississippi camp. And he did a compilation video. Their works are in the dark. All right, part 2. And there was a lot of heavy points being made, in this compilation. And I thought it would be good, to expound on these things in the spirit, for edification. All right, because what we have to understand, all right, we're dealing, all right, with a wicked government, all right, they call it a shadow government, and they have these puppet governments set up, and people argue about, these different political parties, these different characters that they put before you. All right, but the true power, okay, lies within the government that's unseen. Okay, wickedness in high places. Okay, there's people in way higher positions than a Donald Trump or Elon Musk. Okay, or Bill Gates. There's people that's in a way higher position than that. All right, that are tapped into the left hand side of wickedness, man. Okay, so when you go here, which Yahweh Shai spoke this in the book of Mark, It's the book of Mark, chapter 4, verse 22. It says, "For everything that is hidden will eventually be brought into the open, and every secret will be brought to the light." And we in the time of a great exposure, man. One thing about it, no one will be able to say that they didn't know. The Lord has laid out all information, man. The Lord has put his spirit on his men, okay, to do an expose on Esau Edom, to really go into these things, to really go into the root of these things. Even as you have different people, they go into, certain insiders and, certain, professionals, that have inside knowledge, they go into things, okay? But the prophets are able to take this information and run with it and really go into the scriptures and explain these things according to Yahweh Bashim al Shah. Okay, so Esau Edom is being made bare. Okay, this is what we're seeing. All right, as we get to the end of this thing, and this devil, he's pushing to crown his enterprise as NWO. Okay, he's going to continue to get exposed, and eventually he's going to be judged. All right, and that's why it says that in let me get that too, in the book of Jeremiah. Get a couple of precepts, just to lay the foundation. Then we'll get to the video. Okay, this is get this in the KJV. All right, this is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 49. Okay, in verse 10. Let me put this up. All right, this is the book of Jeremiah 49 and 10. It says, "But I have made Esau bare. I have uncovered I have uncovered his secret place, and he shall not be able to hide himself. His seed is spoiled, and his brethren and his neighbors, and he is not." So what we're seeing real time is Esau being made bare. All his inner workings, all his wickedness from the past, the present, and the future is being laid out. Okay, what this man is really up to. Okay, and the Bible gives us the mindset of these devils. Okay, and that's what the prophets have the understanding of the mindset of these devils, that they think that they're the most high. In their mind, they're going to hijack creation to themselves, okay, through witchcraft and technology, man. And they're going to manually make themselves the most high on the left hand side. They're going to manually tap into immortality, okay, on the left hand side. Okay, all the plots and schemes from past, right, present, and future are being exposed about this devil, man. And the Bible, all right, gives us the game on it, man. Gives us the scoop. So I want to get this. This is like I say, from the elder brother Shaquat down in the Mississippi camp. His channel is GMS Dedication. All right, and this GMS Dedication, one word. All right, subscribe and be continually edified. I still gotta go watch the Works in the Dark Part 1, but this is Part 2. And the first portion of this goes into the destruction of masculinity. Because the masculinity has been intentionally destroyed in this society, in this system. Through the foods, through single motherhood, through music, okay, the cultural norms, all right, demonizing, any type of masculinity, any type of patriarch system. They call it misogynist, and all these different enchantments, okay, and chemicals, and all these things have been attacked on masculinity. That's why everything that you eat damn near destroys your testosterone, man. Damn near everything that you eat and drink, the containers that you drink out of. Okay, you brush your teeth, testosterone low. Lower your testosterone. Drink out of this, lower your testosterone. You know, you pick up the remote. The plastic on the remote, lower your testosterone. Like, God damn, your phone case. Like the radiation, everything, just lower your testosterone, man. Because it's easy to rule over emasculated society, man. All right, because women are easy manipulated. You keep them distracted, with comfort. They'll never, buck up. Okay, but men, all right, rebel when their autonomy is tampered with. Okay, so one of the main things that these devils done was emasculate, men in this society, man, especially in the West. Okay, so let's play this.
Hey, ChatGPT, if you were the devil, how would you destroy men in the 21st century? If I were the devil and I wanted to destroy men in the 21st century, I'd start by removing their sense of purpose. I'd make them comfortable with mediocrity. I'd drown them in distractions, video games, endless scrolling, mindless entertainment, until years slip by and they wonder why they never built anything meaningful. I'd distort masculinity itself. I'd make strength seem toxic, leadership oppressive, and responsibility a burden. I'd make men ashamed of being men, stripping them of their natural role as protectors and providers, leaving them directionless, weak, and dependent. I'd promote pleasure over progress. I'd make them chase dopamine hits instead of real fulfillment, porn instead of real relationships, junk food instead of health, short term gains instead of long term success. I'd make vice feel like freedom and discipline feel like imprisonment. I'd sever them from faith. I'd make them believe that religion is outdated, that submission to God is weakness, and that morality is subjective. I'd fill their minds with nihilism and hedonism until they believe life has no real meaning beyond chasing their next high. I'd keep them alone, weak, and vulnerable, because a man with no tribe, no purpose, and no faith is the easiest to control.
And that what has been done. Okay, men, have been, reduced, to a video game. All right, chasing women, addicted to corn. Okay, the nightlife. All right, this is what you see in this society. you know. And what this done is it breeds a bunch of women. I mean, a bunch of men that worship women. Okay, because there's you be slave to your lust. So you got a lot of woman worship, and it just breeds a weak, easily controlled society, man. Okay, and this is why we're constantly warned. All right, first, well, in fact, let me get this. This is Isaiah 46:8. It says, "Remember this and show yourselves men. Bring it again to mind, O ye transgressors." Okay, so phase one of coming to the truth, man, the Lord requires us to remember ourselves as men. All right, and men move on purpose. Men move on standards, integrity, man, honor. Okay, and there's a thing that's laughed at in this society, scoffed at. Okay, when you break away from these cultural norms created by Esau of how men supposed to be, that Carl Winslow, Philip Banks, they just these big niggas, but then the wife get mad and they just curl up. Okay, niggas sleeping on the couch. Okay, so it's a society, all right, that reduces, that emasculates men. Okay, and it puts women on the pedestal, and the society that's ran like that is easily controlled. Okay, the elites don't give a damn about women's rights. Okay, they don't care about nobody's rights outside of their 1%. Okay, well, they use that as a tool. Okay, their propaganda as a tool, all right, to weaken, all right, society, to be easily manipulated into the direction that they wanted to go. Okay, because men will be the one that will instill the structure and discipline in the household. Okay, but when you have the men undisciplined, okay, the men all over the place, society is all over the place, man. Okay, when you demonize men, call it toxic masculinity. How can it be toxic masculinity? Okay, but feminism is not deemed toxic. And you look at the atrocities of feminism, what it has produced in the earth. How is that not deemed toxic? But you're masculine because you want your woman in order, you want your children in order. Okay, you want your women and you want your wife and children under your order. That's toxic. Okay, but feminism and all the dysfunction and chaos and freakism and degenerates and young niggas and all the things that feminism produce, that's not deemed toxic, man. Okay, it's crazy. All right, so let's go here, Luke 21:34, and it says, "And take heed to yourselves least at any times your hearts be overcharged with fighting and drunkenness and cares of this life, and so that their day come upon you unawares. Okay, so Yahweh Shai is giving us warning not to fall into the distractions, not to fall, all right, into this festive, YOLO, spirit. Okay, you only live once and get caught up, okay, in the culture, okay, of this society, because Yahweh Shai was in pagan Rome, Pax Romana, okay, where Rome was in this peak. Okay, so he's seen the same thing. We just see with more technology, man. All right, but it was the same spirit, all right, that was in the earth. Okay. Matter of fact, let's get this real quick in Matthew. Then we'll go on in the video. Okay. This is the book of Matthew, I think chapter 6. Mm. So you go here to Matthew 6 and matter of fact, I'm gonna go to it real quick and read down on it. So let's get this in the book of Matthew 6. Okay, Matthew 6 and 19. Okay. It says, lay not up for yourself treasures upon earth, and where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves, all right, break through and steal. You know? So Yahweh Shai is giving us instructions, not to even be, too engaged with this world. Now we gotta do what we gotta do, in our situation. Every brother, got their situation that they gotta maintain. All right. But we understand we can't get lost in the sauce in this society, man. This ain't our reward. This ain't our rest. Okay, we've been given a purpose. See, that's what we've awakened to is purpose. Okay, and that's the thing that the elites want to keep men from is any type of purpose. Okay, it says, but lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moth nor rough doth corrupt, nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through nor steal. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also your mind. Okay, and the devil has made men, to treasure, vain things, you know, things, all right, that don't have any meaning, things that don't align with any type of purpose. Okay, just a bunch of random thrills. Okay, just a bunch of random moments in time. All right, that mean nothing, man, that amount to anything. Okay, being entertained, being distracted. All right, verse 22 says, the light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, the whole body shall be full of light. So that's having a hyper focus on our office, on our purpose, man. And when a man has a purpose, he move different, he think different. Lust doesn't have, he's not if a man is tapped into his purpose, he's not a slave to lust, man. He's a slave to his purpose. As we're, all right, slaves to Yahweh Bashim Al Shah. Our affections, all right, are on things, all right, that's beyond this age. Okay, that's us becoming dead, to the things of this age, man. All right, so let's go back to the video.
It's not just the Klaus Schwabs and the Faucis. All of them are the visible. The ones who really plan are behind the curtain. They don't want anyone to know who they are. There are dynasties that have continued since a long time. Some of the evidence for this has come out. I mean, for example, World War II documents, after 80 years, they've released quite a bit, and you suddenly realize, hey, some of them are still now. That's right.
And who are some of those people?
Rockefeller, Rothschild, multinational corporations. And they tell you it's all written, it's all laid out. They want one world government, one world health organization that tells everybody in the universe what they may do, and they did it during COVID.
Kids graduate from university. Incidentally, the word graduate comes from two words: gradually indoctrinate. So consequently, when you graduate, you come out with a square mortarboard. The mortarboard is a symbol of masonry. This is why you go to college to get a degree. Consequently, you need to understand that all universities and colleges in the Western world operate under the Vatican. All universities and colleges. So if you want to save your money to send your kids to college, just remember you're sending them to a Jesuit, Catholic, dominated ancient Roman Empire system, whereby your children are to gradually be indoctrinated into a system of religion, politics, and theology. As far back as the 4th, 5th, and 6th century, we know that the escapades of the popes, many of them were homosexuals, most of them were murderers. They were all offsprings of bankers. The entire Vatican system was a banking system. Today's Uniform Commercial Code is based on the old Vatican canon law. So once you understand, the church, government, politics are all interconnected, and the secret societies have been manipulating them all from day one.
Basic New World Order and Illuminati, if you will, which is primarily run by the Rothschild family. The Rothschilds financed.
It speaks to the image of the beast. He went back to the Roman, Jesuit, okay? And it's part of the image of the beast speaking. See, this devil, these elites have brought Rome. All right, you're being indoctrinated with Roman values. Okay, you go into these Western schools, you're being indoctrinated by Roman values. Okay, that's why Rome is heavily taught in history. Okay, you know all about the Caesars. Okay, you don't know about the other empires. All right, and the accomplishments of other empires. You learn about Caesar, the Caesars. Okay, the Alexander the Greek. Okay, because he was a Greek, but a lot of Rome culture came from the Greeks as well. That's why you have the Greco-Roman era. Okay, but what this man has brought back to the world, okay, is the image of the beast. That's why you go here to Revelation 13 and 12. It says, and he exercised all the power of the first beast before him, and this is pagan Rome being revived in the earth, and causes the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast whose deadly wound was healed. And this was the revival of Rome during the Renaissance period, man. Okay, and you have the Treaty of Rome, in I think 1953. Okay, the EU. Okay, and then America. All right, then you had the NATO, the military branch of that. All right, so this man, and then what you have in America, you have a lot of Roman culture that's pushed throughout the earth, man. All right, but people in America are heavily Romanized, man. All right, the same values. Okay, the games, the mall, the apartments, the loss, all they go back to Rome. Okay, buffets. Okay, all these things go back. All right, to the dragon, man, Rome. You see? So let's play this some more.
Stalin and the takeover of Russia, the Bolshevik Revolution, 1917. They have financed the French Revolution. They financed World War II. They financed Hitler, and they were financing the U.S. So they believe in order out of chaos. You fund both sides of a war, and whichever side wins, you got their vote because you're their paymaster. You've given them their money. You control their financial supply, which means you can control the government. Okay, and you profit no matter what. Right. And also what happens is that the war stimulates the economy, so you get much more infrastructure and much more buildings coming out of it. That's why, for example, Ford Motor Company was building tank plants in Germany, which is why Hitler's Wehrmacht had the tanks, was from Ford. When American bombers bombed Ford's tank plants in Germany, Ford personally repaid Hitler so he could rebuild the tank plants faster. Boeing actually was shipping, this has been documented, was shipping passenger airliners to South America, which were then sent to Africa, where they ripped the seats out and turned them into Hitler's bomber fleet. That was Boeing. These are American corporations. The whole idea of these big wars is a joke.
The control over the world of money today is so powerful that even the most powerful states in the world are afraid that if you step out of line, they will destroy your money. They have a weapon. It's the most dangerous weapon ever created in human history, more powerful than nuclear weapons. It's called inflation. And if you step out of line, they destroy your money. Hugo Chavez, with greater courage and integrity than all of your leaders in the world of Islam, Hugo Chavez, a Christian, not a Muslim, stepped out of line and challenged him. Today, the Venezuelan bolivar is destroyed. Today, Venezuela has the highest rate of inflation in the world. And they do that to Venezuela to tell the rest of the world, you do what they did, this is what we'll do to you. And so the rest of the world have learned their lesson. So from the time you step out of line, they destroy your money. And so now we are slaves. That's where we are. We have to obey them. Because if we do not obey them, our money will be destroyed and we'll be as poor as the Indonesian made. What? How did they do it? How did they get us to surrender money in order for them to institute a monetary system which will prohibit the use of gold and silver as money? They needed big wars, and they needed to win the war. And that is the First and Second World War. And a new monetary system came to the world after the Second World War. That monetary system has been with us since then, 1944. But I have news for you tonight. There's another war coming, and it's just around the corner. And when that war comes, they're going to finish this monetary system, and they'll bring a new one.
It's not our government that's failing this. It's not the Constitution or the Bill of Rights.
So he made some points about how, they got control over the money, the global economy. All right. And if you don't play ball, as a nation with the global economy, they just ruin your money. Okay. And when you go here, it's all in prophecy, man. Revelation 13 and 15 says, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast. Okay. And the elites, all right, these banking families, okay, have financed this beast system. Okay. They control and they orchestrate, all right, this money system, okay, of this beast, because it's the beast money system that controls the world. American dollar is the world reserve currency, which was established after, World War II, 1944. Okay. And the elites have been, facilitating, war, all right, economic war, all right, throughout the earth, through America since then. Since post-World War II, America has been the hammer of the earth. They can pummel you with their military, or they can pummel you economically, man. Okay, America represents the centerpiece of this new Roman Empire that's revived in the earth. America is likened to Rome itself. Okay, said that the image of the beast shall both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. Okay, and this is manifold because ultimately we know it's gonna get to a point, all right, that if you don't take the sea hip, it's gonna be under the imminent threat of death. Okay, the scripture speak about those that will be headed that refuse the MOTB. All right, which is the mark, all right, of this system, man. Okay, but then you have these different nations that try to buck up, okay, against this beast system, okay, and they get economically destroyed. They get wars waged against them. Certain political leaders get put to death. Gaddafi, which I think they're gonna go into it. Okay, Saddam. All right, these leaders try to get cute and try to back their oil by gold, or try to find some economical detour, around, the dollar, all right, they will be put to death. Now we see BRICS, and what we have to understand, the elites are behind this BRIC system because they're transitioning to a new way. Because the BRICS currency is set to be digital, which ultimately, they're just a segue, all right, to a global digital currency. Okay, BRICS gonna be dissolved. They plan to dissolve that as well. All right, and bring on just a total global, digital system. All right, let's play some more.
Rights that's a bad instrument. It is a group of men who belong to secret societies who have infiltrated our society and our government at all levels and are destroying it and subverting it from within. And every member of naval intelligence that I knew who was an officer was a 32nd or a 33rd degree Freemason. And I asked my commanding officer at one point, I said, why are all you guys Masons? He said, Masons are used to keeping secrets. It's part of their fraternity. So if you want someone who already knows how to keep a secret, you recruit Freemasons. Well, later on, I found out what the truth is. The truth is you're not going to be a naval intelligence officer unless you are a Freemason or a member of the Ancient Order of the Rose and Cross, but you have to be high degrees for that. I think the reason I was selected as a enlisted man is because I had belonged to the Demolay Society, which is why, as a teenager, that's sort of the first level of Freemasonry. That's how they recruit teenagers and indoctrinate them into their principles so that they go right into Freemasonry when they become an adult.
The third world is not poor. You don't go to poor countries to make money. There are very few poor countries in this world. Most countries are rich. The Philippines are rich. Brazil is rich. Mexico is rich. Chile is rich. Only the people are poor. But there's billions to be made there, to be carved out and to be taken. There's been billions for 400 years. The capitalist European and North American powers have carved out and taken the timber, the flax, the hemp, the cocoa, the rum, the tin, the copper, the iron, the rubber, the bauxite, the slaves, and the cheap labor. They have taken out of these countries. These countries are not underdeveloped, they're overexploited.
So when you get a book that's banned, that means there's something.
So let's tap into that, because he made a major point, okay, about let me see. He made a major point about countries aren't poor. It's just the people in these countries are poor. And why are the people, all right, in these countries poor? Okay, let's go here. And prophecy explains all these things, man. This is how we pinpoint the devil in real time because he does everything that the devil and the wicked, is said to do in the scriptures, man. Okay, he has the conduct that matches prophecy. Okay, this is Micah 2:1. It said, "What sorrow awaits you?" And then you go into the title of this chapter. It said, "Judgment against wealthy oppressors," man, and that perfectly describes these damn devil, man. Okay, beginning with the elites, and the super rich under them. It said, "What sorrow awaits you who lie awake at night, thinking of evil plans." This is all these devils do. This is what they're obsessed with, man. Wickedness. It said they can't go to sleep unless they cause some to fall. In the book of Proverbs, chapter 4, I believe it's 16. Okay, brother can get that. If brother able to. It says, "You rise at dawn and hurry to carry them out simply because you have the power to do so." Okay, because they got the military might. Okay, they got the financial resources. Okay, they got the what you call the power. Okay, over trade. In order to sell your resources on the global market, well, you got to go through these Edomite banks. Okay, so a country can be rich in a resource, but you got to go through these American, all right, banking systems, all right, to sell, okay, your resources to another nation. Okay, You see? So they got everything, all right, within their power. All right. And what these devils do, they come, all right, and they set up shop, they set up these factories and industries, okay, to extrapolate the resources, okay, and they're owned, all right, by these small percentage of elites, okay, and then they pay the people pennies to work there because their economy, their currency is trash, okay, so they can pay them, a few dollars a day, okay, to do, this laborious work, and they make billions off the resources, man. Verse 2, it says, when you want a piece of land, you find a way to seize it. Yeah, you demonize the leader, okay, to start a war. Because, see, once things are destabilized, once he has an excuse to bring troops anywhere and destabilize a place, he's able to seize on land. He's able to justify himself being there, what they call peacekeeping troops. Okay, a lot of troops are guarding resources. A lot of these troops that are deployed, they're guarding resources. Okay, oil fields, certain metals. Okay, a lot of American troops, NATO troops, they're deployed to guard resources that they stole from these other lands. But they'll tell the media they're peacekeeping troops. There's so many rebels. There's so many, radicals and, extremists out here that they'll cause, a car bombing or, a terrorist attack on the playground, and you like, oh, we need, the peacekeeping troops here. Okay, but they're there to steal, all right, and exploit, man. It says when you want someone's house, all right, you take it by fraud and violence. You cheat a man of his property, stealing his family's inheritance, man. And this is what these devils do on the large scale. Okay, but there's a judgment coming out of this devil, man. All right, the scriptures call this man out, and then there's a judgment. All right, that goes with this conduct, with this behavior. You see, the scriptures call out this nigga charges, man. Okay? You see, Esau is on trial, and all his charges are being read in the courtroom, man. All right? Via the web, the YouTube. Micah 2 and 3 said, but this is what the Lord says, I will reward your evil with evil. You won't be able to pull your neck out of the noose. You will no longer walk around proudly, for it will be a terrible time. So this devil is not going to get away from this ultimate judgment that the Lord has been reserving him for, man. And that's why all these things are coming to the light, because this devil is on trial, man. Okay? You see? The water the brother posted for me. It's the brother GMS Taza Doc Bunny Howard 144K. This is Proverbs 4:16. For they sleep not, except they have done mischief, and their sleep is taken away unless they cause some to fall. All right, and this nigga's obsessed, okay, with wickedness. All right, with stealing, with robbing, with death, confusion, chaos, man, lewdness. He's obsessed with everything that the Lord hates. Okay, and that's why he's going to get the type of judgment, okay, written, because this man is obsessed with everything that the Lord hates, man. Okay, let's go here. Play some more.
In there that you need to know. This book is called History of Central Banking. What does Hitler, JFK, Lincoln, Gaddafi, Napoleon, Julius Caesar, Tsar Nicholas II have in common? They all tried to do state banking and they all got either killed or thrown into a war.
Saddam Hussein rejected the Rothschild banking cabal. Rejected the central bankers. Yeah, he wanted his own system of monetary exchange outside of the central banks. We can't have that shit. Right? Guess who else did that? JFK. Guess who else did that? Muammar Gaddafi. Yeah. Guess who's doing that now? Vladimir Putin. Gotta have regime change working. Because we can't have this rejection of the central banks, because that's what's required for the ushering in of the one world governance, the Great Reset, Agenda 2030, whatever you want to call it. Right. The New World Order, the Hold the Pale Horse. That is every single military intervention that we have been in has been funded by the Rothschilds. So, yeah. So just think about that. We don't do anything with or without the permission of the bankers.
It's like Libya. We were the ones that caused Gaddafi's death because Hillary Clinton played a game over there. And I was the one that went over there during the war. Gaddafi asked me to come over. I took a Biden staffer and a Bush staffer and a film crew leader from ABC One in New York, Larry Menti, with me, and a cameraman, because I didn't want the CIA to set me up. I hand carried the letter back from Gaddafi offering to resign. The U.S. didn't want him to resign. They wanted to kill him.
Why?
Because Gaddafi, and I met him 3 times. I took Biden on my second trip to Libya, by the way. He went with me when I spoke to the whole country. And every meeting I had with Gaddafi, he wanted 2 things. He wanted to unite the African continent into a group of nations economically, like the European economy. He wanted to base it on the gold standard. And the U.S. and Europe didn't want that. And the other thing is they wanted control of his oil, and they wanted control of his sovereign wealth. So Gaddafi had to go. That's outrageous, and it's wrong.
You want to know how deep I've gone down rabbit holes? I'm convinced that both of the world wars were really just to erase the old world, and that there was an entire narrative scripted around who the bad guys were, who the allies are, and it was really meant to just destroy all of these beautiful cities. They took out all of the bells. If you guys haven't looked into why there would be bells in public spaces and the healing properties and the harmonious properties that these churches and all the architecture was built in. Okay, it's sacred geometry, and it's not unrealistic that they started 2 world wars and put, at the time, our best men in every single country lined up across each other because they wanted to take out the most brave and quote-unquote prestigious men.
As an American Jew, I have no sympathy for Israel's policies at all. I find them abhorrent. I find them disgusting because they have prevented peace. In 2001, the so-called neocons, who are also the so-called Zionist part of the U.S. government, produced a document that called for 7 wars in the Middle East in 5 years after 2001. And those 7 wars were to take out Israel's enemies. And those 7 wars were Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Somalia, Libya, Sudan, and Iran. And there have been 6 of those wars fought on Israel's behalf. And Israel is pushing for war with Iran. Why did the U.S.
I'm gonna go here real quick, as I gotta get ready for class. I might have to do a part 2. It's about another 8 minutes, well, about 12 minutes on there. So I might do a part 2 on it. But yeah. So when you go here real quick, major changes after World War One. All right, because he said World War One and World War Two were used, to change. All right, and erase the old world, and that was right because you had certain regimes. All right, and certain powers, okay, certain empires that fell, all right, because the land that they are fighting over today over there in Israel, well, that land was under that land was once a part of what we call the Ottoman Empire, but World War One, all right, dismantled the Ottoman Empire, okay, and they freed up that land, for eventually the British, to establish, okay, those small hats in that land after the Second World War. Okay, so just real quick, say World War One brought about significant and lasting changes across the globe, impacting political landscapes, redrawing maps, fostering social shifts, and driving technological advancement. The war led to the collapse of empire, the rise of new nations, and the emergence of new ideologies like communism and fascism. It also reshaped economies, spurred social moves, and spurred advancement in medicine and warfare technology, man. And that's when a lot of the medicine, went to petroleum based, okay, instead of, the natural remedies, all right. And the collapse of different empires, the war resulted in the disintegration of the Austro-Hungarian, German, Ottoman, and Russian empires, okay. So World War One, played a factor in erasing, okay, that old world, all right, and they reset the world, all right, under this beast system, okay, after World War Two, because you go to World War Two, okay, the changes of World War Two, it says World War Two fundamentally reshaped the global landscape, ushering in a new era marked by the rise of two superpowers, the Cold War, the post-war economic boom. It also spurred decolonization and the spread of communism and had lasting impacts on global politics, economics, and technology. Okay, so World War II, all right, this is where the war led to the rise of the United States, okay, and the Soviet Union as global superpower, displacing Europe from the center of world affairs. Okay, so this is when the horde that ride the beast, really started to shine, after the Second World War, all right, in which the bankers, used America, all right, to put nations in debt, okay, and to be a hammer to these nations, militarily, man, okay. You see, to enchant these nations, with American culture, all right, because after World War II, America became the center of the earth, man. American pop culture, music, you had the blues, you had, rock and roll, okay. All these things became, global cultures, okay. That was part of the Golden Cup, all right, of Babylon, to export their culture throughout the world. Okay, you had the roaring 50s, okay, with the economy, booming. Man was able to take care of, himself, his family, children on one income. Okay, and America was, their golden city. All right, but now, all right, they ran America to the ground. The scheme of America, they ran it to the ground, and now they're getting ready to do something else, man. All right, after this war, they plan on doing, another shift. All right, so let's go here. I'm saying Lord will, I'll get I'll do a part two. Maratazar. Um, well, let's go here. We end it here. All right, this is Book of Job, chapter 5. All right, and verse 12. It says, "He frustrated the plans of schemers, so the work of their hands will not succeed. He traps the wise in their own cleverness, so their cunning schemes are thwarted." Okay, so we're finna see the devil lose. All right, he's gonna be frustrated. The Lord, all right, is finna get ready to judge this devil. He's gonna let him get so far. All right, and then this devil's gonna be disappointed. All right, at this failure, man, and he's finna go into captivity. He's doing all this just to go into captivity, man. All right, so Lord will you brothers, all right, and you sisters edified once again. I'm gonna give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Rakakwadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards younger brothers, and peace and blessings, salutations, hopefully, shalom.